Are we living in the Matrix? Is the universe just one big simulation? What if everything we thought we knew was nothing more than virtual reality? Ponder the answers to these questions and more on Glitch in the Matrix with me, Doug Rizzio, and a closing conversation with the glitch artists Paul Beaudoin, Eugene Tumusiime,
Yeah, you nailed it. Good, thanks.
and Eve Katharsis.
Oh,
Hey guys.
Eve is muted.
Hey.
Cool.
So
Thanks.
thanks for joining me on this, for now, last Glitch in the Matrix show. What I want to do for this is really dive deeper into the conversations. We've heard your stories, who you are as artists, and what you like to do. But now I want to talk more about the Matrix, society, technology, and the universe itself. So before we jump into the conversation, starting with Paul, then Eugene, and then Eve, can you just remind everyone what is your name, where are you from, who are you as an artist, and where can people find you online?
My name is Paul Beaudoin. I'm originally from the United States, but I now make a home in Tallinn, Estonia. I'm an interdisciplinary artist working with paint, with sound, with text, and with digital media. And what else was asked?
Where can people find you online?
Yeah, of course. Find me on Instagram. Everybody's on Instagram. And I'm thinking, although I've had an Instagram site that's been interdisciplinary, it's getting to the point where I'm beginning to think that I might have to break myself into little bits and pieces because people who go looking for the digital Paul don't see sound. And so I'm kind of thinking about how I represent myself as somebody who works in multiple fields.
I think that's a good idea because it's what I've done for art versus art shows, and I'm thinking of splitting that up into even more things. So I think that's the way of the future. A different profile for every personality, I guess. So, okay, Eugene, now spotlight on you.
Hi, I'm Eugene. I'm based in London. I am a photographer, filmmaker, and analog glitch artist based in London. You can find me at etvisuals.co.uk, at etvisaulus.co.uk. Same thing for Instagram, Twitter, Behance, all this other stuff.
Awesome. All right, Eve, you're up.
Hi, I'm Eve Kat, short for Eve Katharsis, and I am also a multimedia artist. I am an oil painter and digital artist and a healer as well. I practice Reiki and divination and sound healing. And you can find me on Instagram at, I have two profiles as well, but we'll just say Elixir Healing Art because it's easier.
Awesome. All right. So, are we living in the Matrix, guys? I know I've asked you this a million times before already, but are we living in the Matrix? What kind of Matrix is it? What do you think?
Who wants to go first? Who's going to do it?
Tough question. It's a little too open-ended. Well, I guess first of all, how are we living in the Matrix in a social way? How do social constructs control our perceptions and behaviors? Where is society going if things don't change, if the status quo remains the same? How likely are we to end up there? And what's your vision of that future? And how do we escape those social constructs? How do we live without them? Now that's maybe too specific of a question. It's very loaded, but trying to get the juices flowing here.
Let's backtrack a little bit. I just said in my intro that I was an interdisciplinary artist, and so I'm thinking about splitting myself into these different categories, so that people who are looking for me as a sound artist go here, people who are looking for me as a filmmaker go here, people who are looking for me as a painter go here, but that fragmentation isn't the totality of who I am. So if we're living in a matrix, I truly believe that our matrix is a kind of mental construct. We build for ourselves our sense of reality. So I have to think, I know who I am, but as I present myself in social media, I have to construct my persona. I have to decide, what do I show? What do I reveal? What do I keep back? What am I afraid of showing? What am I happy to show? I think in social media, we're always quick to share our successes, when in fact, most of us suffer, I put that maybe in quotes, so much rejection. And I think that is a distortion that we present to the outside world. For example, many people will say, "Oh, Paul, you're so successful," but every day I'm opening up 3, 4, 5 rejections, and I never talk about those. And then one of my friends said, "If you're not getting 30 rejections a day, you're not working hard enough." And I say, but it's so demoralizing, because part of our social construct requires, at least for me, recognition. I think so much of why I do art is for sharing purposes, which is to try to help connect to somebody else's sort of mental construct. So as somebody who, and we talked about this the first time, I am Buddhist, and I truly believe that how we perceive the world is here in our own thoughts. Is there some sort of Uber program generating the universe? I don't know. But those photographs coming back from the James Webb Telescope are mind-blowing to me. And when I think of how minuscule I am in this makeup, it's very humbling. So I think the Matrix is as much a mental construct as is maybe psychosis.
That is a good way to put it.
I'll open up a little bit of a door. Well, Eugene, I oftentimes think I'm a very lucid dreamer, and I have both horrifying dreams and remarkable dreams. But to me, when I'm in my dream world, it feels very, very real to me. So what reality is that when I'm in this other state? Am I, in fact, existing in two spaces because I have this, here I'm with you guys, but in a couple of hours, I go to this other place where I'm very alive and very much feeling. I can feel fear. I can feel excitement. I can feel pain, but it's in this dream world. So there's a sense of consciousness that I think is different. So that's kind of matrixy. Matrixy. Is that a word? Matrixy?
I'm sure by now someone tried to coin that. Right?
Do I have to send Keanu Reeves a check? I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys think?
No, I'm gonna stick with the mental contract thing because I know obviously I said in the last one, it's gonna say the answer no, obviously, but then it's still the whole thing of, I guess, because even when I was thinking coming onto the show for the first time, the thing was always, I really don't want to lend any kind of thought to anything that would not excuse, but kind of there are power structures in place, and let's kind of ignore those things, and the universe is what it is as we experience it. But I like the idea of the how you perceive reality thing. I like the idea of it because you can only really control what you do and stuff. But yeah, that's just my whole thing. It was generally I'm a no, we're not. And also did the thing of I don't know how worth it would be even if we were, because am I getting pulled out? Do I have to find out that I'm Techno Jesus to go and do all to go see it? Because it's the whole thing of, okay, man, but if I'm not Neo, this is still not a great deal. I'm still gonna I'm just gonna pick the stake. But no, generally speaking, no, like I wouldn't say we are. I think it's kind of the universe is an infinite feedback loop of stuff happens because stuff happens because stuff happens because stuff happens, and a lot of it is unfortunate. And you can only really control what you do. I'm very much of a we're all gonna die, so let's make the best of it anyway for other people type person, and you can only kind of affect your own impacts to a degree. So yeah, that's my whole thing. I don't know if that really answers the question beyond no.
What do you think, Eve?
Well, Paul brought up lucid dreaming, and it just made me think about kind of different dimensions of reality and how multiple. I'm kind of also into like metaphysics and things like that, and so I believe that there's just like an infinite amount of kind of timelines and trajectories we can go on, and all the time we're making a choice. Like, I think the Matrix exists, and it's always, we're not going to escape it. We're not going to leave this 3D Matrix. But I feel like when people say exit the Matrix, they're kind of talking about, well, are you going to wake up and into like your how your actions have an effect on your projection, and how can you take responsibility for that, and make an impact in a way that's like more conscious versus just unconsciously going through life and just letting things happen, being like a passive observer instead of an active dreamer. I think that's where one can wake up from the said matrix, when they take like the power back into their own hands, I suppose. It's my thoughts on it.
That's a good one, actually. I wanted to ask, like, okay, so like, how much of do you think it kind of messes up like the meta discussion, the fact that people like refer to Matrix instead of like the possibility of multiple timelines, or this is just the thing you exist in? I like people may cling to the metaphor of the actual Matrix a bit too much instead of, well, you do what you can with what you have type thing. I know if that actually helps.
Eugene, I it's funny you say this, because I think each one of us is our own timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Each one of us experiences this trajectory of life. There's this beautiful idea that all rivers become ocean. And that we too are in the process of becoming ocean. Mm-hmm. So my trajectory of life is about the intersections I have or not have with all things. And we all have our own trajectory. Is it a matrix that only we are here and not somebody else? Can there be multiple experiences? Absolutely. Is there one matrix? Probably not.
Well, did they actually say the films are at least 8 anyway? So like, yeah. So no, it's a good point. It's generally a good point. Like, we want to I think like we may want to focus a bit too much on like our own experience as we are experiencing it, at least in terms of, well, this is the one that will matter to me because this is what I'm going through, as opposed to, well, no, of course, it's like more than one version of this anyway. So like, okay, that's actually a better way of thinking about it. Back to the James Webb Telescope, we're smaller than we think type thing. That's good.
Eve, I stepped back a little bit when I heard you said you were a Reiki healer, because something that I never talk about publicly is I have spent much of my life as a healer as well. And one thing that I think is very difficult for a lot of people who aren't healers or empaths is the idea of understanding and feeling energy. Because for me, it is a very physical thing to feel energy levels. And I often wonder, what am I tapping into when I tap into somebody else's energies? It's very powerful, and yet at the same time, dangerous. I don't know. I'm wondering what your experiences are with dealing with this idea of energy.
Well, I believe that everything is energy. So I don't know if I would say well, sometimes I guess things can be dangerous if you don't like set the intention to protect yourself. But I think all artists are healers and musicians because they serve to connect to other people and each other in these different ways. And I think that that's what's really healing about it is the connection that we forge when we create. And about energy, well, the way Reiki works, the idea behind it is it's like channeling universal life force energy. So it's not like my healing energy, it's just that I'm opening up as a channel for that energy to assist a person in whatever they need. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say like it could be dangerous as a practitioner to pick up on like bad energy or something. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, I'm just thinking because I like you am a channel, but I also collect this energy. This energy must pass through me. And because my body is vibrating, I must have some connection with this energy. And in a way, I mean, this energy is kind of maybe what I think of as kind of a matrix. This idea that we all are kind of vibrating energies.
I believe that. I agree. I feel like that's what brought us here together because we kind of resonate in the same ideas, I guess, about the matrix, and that's and I think it's just important to be conscious about the energies and be aware and have awareness of like what is mine, what isn't mine. And that's how I go about things anyway.
Eve, what kind of ailments do people come to you with? Who don't mind me asking?
Sure. Well, sometimes people just need to relax. Reiki is very relaxing. And what was there? Joint pain. It's really a good practice for a lot of things. I don't want to stray too far off the topic here, but yeah, it's either mental, emotional, or various physical ones. Like definitely, people. It's more like a supplemental treatment. Like I'm not trying to claim I heal like someone's cancer or something, but it's like a promotes relaxation in a way where the body is self-healing. Yeah.
It's got to take a lot. Actually, that's pretty good in terms of at least we can sort this out. At least there's a thing where, not take your mind off of it, but at least put you in a better space while you're dealing with this thing.
Yes, exactly.
It's good to actually have that genuinely good, at least emotionally intelligent thing of, yeah, we're going to help you with this because that is still important. So yeah, okay.
Right, exactly. Mind over matter. It's important.
Nice.
What are the implications of us living in that kind of energetic universe in which things are not just comprised of hard, solid physical materials, but that maybe things are more fluid and dynamic than most other people believe? What are the implications of that?
Well, to me, the implications are that we can bend our own reality, like things that we thought were impossible may be possible. Ideas can come and we can create things and shape things to our liking. I mean, with some practice, of course. And yeah, I think people are very powerful beings and we can just tap into that. Yeah.
That is a difficult one. I'm not gonna lie.
Paul, any thoughts on that?
In order for us to exist as a civilization, we have to have an incredible amount of agreement. We have to agree on calling certain things certain things. I'm thinking about this great story that John Cage used to tell about his teacher, D.T. Suzuki. Suzuki had gone to this conference in Hawaii on the nature of reality. And for 3 days, this Zen monk said nothing. And finally, somebody asked him if the table around which they sat was real, and he said yes. And they asked, in what sense is this table real? And he said, in every sense. What does this mean? It means that we have to believe that this is a table. You know, why is it that, for example, a piano always looks the way it looks? Why is it that the sky always appears the way it does? We have to sort of agree on these constructs, and we give them words. These are glasses. These are headphones. This is a strudel cat. Oh, and we have to agree on these things. Otherwise we can't exist together. Does that make any sense?
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yes, you know? I agree. It's a collective dream, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know if I would call it a dream, because it is, if it's collective dreaming. Yeah, that's Jungian. That's
yep, a little bit.
That requires whiskey, I think. Imagine I teach my son that red means go and green means stop. What happens then when he gets to the street and sees the red light and goes? So there's a certain level of acceptance that we need as human beings in order to sort of coexist on this little sphere that we're on, which apparently is spinning faster. So maybe, Eugene, maybe this solar flare sped the Earth up a little bit. Maybe that's the boom that got us going a little bit.
That would have been nice. I think it was supposed to, like, the year's supposed to be how many milliseconds shorter? I don't know. I think it's like a couple milliseconds shorter, or like a second or so. So the years, like, I don't know how the concept will work. But yeah, as to the collective agreement point, I'm very fortunate to kind of exist at a time where people didn't have to agree on the concept of time and how that worked. That must have been a nightmare. So yeah, because I remember listening to this podcast where two people were kind of talking about the idea, like one person wanted to move to Mars, and if humanity had to go to Mars for some reason, he'd still have the idea that he was still focusing on the idea that his days would still be 24 hours. And it's like, well, we'd have to start over and figure it all out anyway. And he still couldn't catch it. So like, yeah, as far as collective agreements and social constructs, like, yeah, time is massive on that. But, you know, things still decay. We just have to find our own version of what accommodates us, basically. Because that's just, we're doing it for each other. So yeah.
What do you think are the consequences of being in states of mind that allow you to dissolve those mental constructs? Or what if you're unable to recognize them, like people who are on certain substances, or people who have certain psychological conditions? How do they fit into that matrix? Are they, what are they experiencing? It's another hard question.
Can you please repeat it? Or I kind of missed.
If these concepts construct our reality, what happens to people who are unable to identify those concepts? What kind of, are they living in other realities?
I believe so. I think, I'm a big mental health awareness advocate, and I was studying psychology and art therapy, and I really do believe that there's definitely that those people are in just invalid states of being. They're just not seen by society as beneficial to the whole machine, whatever. So, for example, like people who have hallucinations, or, I feel like they're still totally conscious and experiencing, like, what they experience is valid and real. It's just not, like you said, conventionally accepted. So I don't know. I feel they definitely are tapped into other real dimensions. It's just, yeah, I feel like there's definitely some more work that can go into discovering that and, you know, what that means about reality.
Yeah. Also, it just depends on the person and, like, as you mentioned, the substance. So, like, you know, I can't speak for them in terms of figuring it out, but, like, yeah, they're just not seen as compatible with society just in one way or another, which is ultimately just a shame. And I wish there was just more empathy on our part to kind of figure that out and kind of accommodate them again. But, you know, like, I don't know, just slow to make progress, I guess.
Eve, I find what you say very powerful. I was in a relationship with somebody who had a psychotic break with reality. And I was absolutely convinced that what she was seeing was 100% real. And I am convinced when I'm in my dreams that what I see is 100% real. Now, what I find fascinating is when I sleep, biologically, my body, as all bodies happen, we become paralyzed. Our body paralyzes ourselves. So when we're falling or when we feel something, our bodies cannot physically react. So there's something in our brain that protects us. And I think those people that when they experience psychotic breaks or sort of these breaks in mental sameness, that their body isn't protecting them the way it protects a lot of others. And so we as a collective institutionalize them. We put them away. Yeah, I'm still out on this one. This is a very difficult one for me to kind of swim in.
I mean, back to your point about it being a kind of a defense mechanism, kind of a protective thing. It's weird because it's also the idea of, yeah, obviously in the context of sleep paralysis, you don't want to fall out of your bed and stuff and break a hip or something, but it's still like for example, people who hear voices but actually do learn to live with them and genuinely do actually find ways to like live with their voices and contain things and make it work. I do think it's like it's good, and there's just I guess more for them to learn from that and just the experience of that being in their head. So I guess once again it's to each person, each circumstance, and what they're dealing with is really tricky because I can't always argue that it's always a protective measure, I guess. And against protecting against physical harm versus the idea of like your idea of self or how that can be expanded anyway, it's kind of tricky. But yeah, still, yeah, it's a very open-ended question. It's still a tricky one.
On the subject of altered perceptions, let's shift gears a bit and talk more about how technological advancement is altering us as people. How do you think it's altering our perceptions of reality? Not through chemical means, not through some sort of psychological condition, but through the conditioning of our brains through repeated exposure to staring at a screen and being online and having these connections. How is technology changing us?
How did you guys deal with isolation, just to kind of get this point off?
Like during the pandemic?
Yeah, as soon as lockdown started, how did you deal with that?
Oh, I was off my phone.
Okay, that's
I
pretty good.
I took the lockdown so seriously. I decided that I did not want to consume any sort of information, because you can't control a lot of the time what you see on here. So, and it's very dangerous, I think, if you're not mindful and conscious of who you're following and what you're doing. And if you're just like binge absorbing all this information, like this stuff gets into your subconscious mind. And I just was basically, disconnected in more ways than, that. But yeah, I think if I can talk to regarding what Doug just asked about how technology is changing us, I think Paul mentioned before that, we curate these avatars that we pick and choose what we allow people to see. And then we have this whole identity, you know, that's on the internet. And I think for a long time, I was actually having like an internal struggle because I felt like I wanted to protect my humanness, and I didn't want to fully, you know, become this avatar version of myself where I was, you know, curating this whole being, you know, in this altered space, in this dimension. But yeah, I think it definitely is pretty toxic a lot of the times, especially because of how many people like just aren't aware of things. Like, for example, let's say filters. Already women are struggling with body image and self-perception, and now there's all these filters to, you know, clean yourself up, and you know, it just changes your face totally. And I can't imagine what like the younger generations are going to be dealing with that, you know. And then just all the comparison with other artists, the follower count. Like, I think it's as terrible as that is, the connections can be beneficial, but I just wish that, I don't know, people would be more aware of the bad sides of it.
Paul, how did you deal with lockdown? Well, the first one anyway.
You know, I have always been sort of a loner. So in a lot of ways, it didn't affect me at all. And so when I think about how my digital self or my digital persona interfaces with the world, these are service beings for me. They're out there doing things. They're doing work for me. They're promoting my music. They're promoting my art. They're trying to find open spaces to show. I never think about my digital presence as being me, the real me. And I have to work very hard to keep that division. Of course, I love the web. I love this connectivity. I love this idea that technology is enabling me to do things that I could never have done before, or allowing people to do things that were completely impossible. But with this comes responsibility. And not everybody is responsible with how they are learning, acquiring, and using these things. I'm very interested in this phenomenon called deep fake.
Oh, yeah, it's terrifying.
But Eve, what I think about in the future is our failure as these beings to not meet the kinds of things that we see online. Like for example, I'm very smell sensitive, but I don't get that here. Right. You know, I can't tell you like I smell like a taco, or maybe I smell like some very expensive cologne, because I think smell has a very, you know, our five instincts. They're primal, and these senses, not instincts, but these five senses, maybe I would actually say six, because I actually include intuition as a kind of sacred thing. But we don't get those in this sort of environment. So I've also been very fascinated about this technician from Google who was recently fired for believing that his AI project was sentient. You know, I think sentience is, again, a kind of mental construct.
Yeah.
And I think those people that have sort of mental breaks from this realm connect to other timelines, trajectories. I never doubted that what they see is real or what they hear is real. Eugene, you talked about hearing voices.
Mm-hmm.
I hear voices and I see things because they are in the service of my creativity.
Okay.
So I need to hear these things so that my technique can manifest them.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
I need to understand that these notes make this kind of thing. And for me to effectively communicate to somebody else, I have to have that facility. It's like a writer.
Yeah.
They have to have this facility to kind of connect this mental vision. You know, Doug, I keep coming back to this creative visualization book with Shakti Gawain. This was a book that was the most phenomenal experience I had when I first met Doug. But I really think that this is so important for artists to connect. I think making art is really spiritual. It's really a spiritual practice.
I agree.
And I make it not to. I feel like I'm talking too much.
No, that was good.
Okay, I was looking for the book on my desk. I don't know if anyone watched that episode, but what happened was Paul mentioned this book that I just happened to have on my desk. It was in my bag just now, and I still haven't gotten a chance to really read it because I've been so busy with other things.
I knew that. I knew that.
I know you said that you wanted to make it your mission to get me to read it. So eventually, I mean, I have it. It's here.
But the reason I asked why, go on. Fine.
No, I say this is important, Doug, and Eugene, is because I believe, as Eve, I think, sort of not intimidated. What you sort of suggested, intimated.
Sorry.
I think that if we can think it, we can manifest it. And I think no matter how far-fetched that manifestation is, for example, Eugene, you want to do live video.
Oh, like analog glitching stuff, yeah.
Yeah, so
ideally.
You must imagine yourself already doing it, and it will happen. I have this strange belief that if I can think it and ask the universe, somehow it can manifest. And this is something that I can't explain.
Well, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, have you heard of the law of attraction? Because it's like a big popular thing, and something like Neville Goddard, like the things he teaches about reality and how to be a conscious manifester.
I think it maximizes the wrong part of the wanting thing, but I see the good in it. I see why people gravitate towards it. I do see the good part of it, but there's steps that are missing out. And what the core ideas are.
What steps are they missing out?
Mainly as far as it's more the thing of, I'd only find it reductive. Also, calling it a law is really strange because laws of physics is strange too. But it's more of the, at least in my experience, it's the hoping that I can't focus on in terms of I can't not even expect, or I can write down steps and put action towards. Yeah, that's the thing. It's me specifically putting action towards things, right? That's the thing I want to focus on all the time in terms of what is the thing I can do. Luck is just kind of, once again, the feedback loop of shit happens because shit happens and shit happens. You can kind of push yourself towards certain situations and meet certain people, and hopefully you're fortunate enough to do it. But I don't want to ever focus on the intention or focusing on the thing I want if I'm not going to kind of close the gap myself. Having the agency is kind of important. I don't want to remove that, basically. Otherwise, yeah, I like the idea.
Eugene, you said a magic word for me.
Agency.
Hope. This word hope. It is a ridiculous human thing. Millions and billions of things are sold on hope. I go to YouTube, and if you just buy my product, you can be. And hope is,
It's more important in war than a self-help course, right?
But I don't believe in hope. I don't believe in hope. I think hope is not. It's not useful. I hope is not useful. Yeah. Now I'm angry.
Would you focus more? But yeah, the reason I wanted to focus on how people went through lockdown, because back onto how you felt, back to Doug's question, how technology kind of shapes the way you move throughout the world, was the thing of, I know as far as my experience went, because I was on uni and I studied film and just kind of had the final 15-minute short you're supposed to do canceled the night before it starts. right? As far as shooting it. So it was the thing of going back and just like, it was, Eve, when you brought up like trying to defend your humanness, I guess it came to the idea of what everyone thought the important parts to each individual person, what made them a person, what was important to their own qualities. Because for me, it was being able to log into Steam and play video games and not feel guilty about it for the first time in 3 years, right? But that also meant sacrificing all social contact because I was just sick of talking to people. I didn't want to do Zooms and stuff. So I kind of got closer to, here are the things that kind of give me the most immediate gratification in terms of, oh my God, I can actually like watch stuff now and not feel like I have to work on stuff and film industry's dead. But also kind of, I was watching this video earlier where someone said, we kind of experienced like the closest thing to what pod life would be if you wanted to like go into VR stuff. Yeah, very much like kind of having the immediate gratification of what was available to you, and if you didn't want to talk to people, you didn't have to. And it was also the thing of having to learn how to converse with people, even though, you know, ideally being part of the good thing about being a human is kind of interacting with other people. But if you got the chance to strip it away, would you choose to do so? And would you be so eager to like bring that back into your life when you had the chance to? Because that was a really hard bit about doing it as well, kind of socializing and when someone asks you how the last few months have been, I'm like, I don't know how to answer that question. So for me, it was like, at least the implications for myself as far as, you know, it's kind of retreating into this weird hovel of I have things that I have access to. But that being said, I'm pretty mindful about like media literacy and being aware of like stuff works. So I was taking in a lot of stuff. But I guess I was already kind of native to it. So I do imagine what that experience is going to be like for future generations, because they're just going to grow up with it. Like, so there's a whole new idea of how they would have to take in how information is just reproduced endlessly. And yeah, I don't know how they're going to do it. I really don't. But yeah, there's a million ways I could go. I don't think it would inherently be for the better, generally speaking.
Yeah, even though this pandemic was a single, if prolonged, event, it led to a restructuring of society in more ways than one, oriented around technology in order to replace or fill the gaps left behind of physical presence. You no longer meeting in person, meeting online, no longer working from home, working from the office, working from home. And even though we're kind of out of the pandemic, not completely, do you think that this is just jump starting a larger trend that will continue to happen indefinitely? Are people going to start retreating into their personal spaces more and more? Are they going to take their work home with them? Are they going to meet primarily on digital spaces as opposed to in person?
Didn't Donald Trump take his work home with him?
It's already happening.
Some of it was.
Doug, here's we are in the middle of what I might call the Great Disruption. I think COVID was just sort of the beginning of a huge awareness that things in our system, in our global way of living, are changing. And entering into this for the first time is the necessity of, and I want to use these words careful, the augmentation of our reality, or the sort of this sort of virtualness of our existence has become in many ways equal to our physical embodiment. This whole idea of working from home, this is kind of a paradox, isn't it? But I think what's happening now is a complete restructuring of our social order. And we will see declines of government, declines of currency, but along with that, Eugene, I don't feel so pessimistic. I think what will come is a kind of new order, a new system. Whether or not it's going to be filled with the same kind of inequalities and recklessness as it has been, who knows? Probably, because we oftentimes replace with the same shit happens. That shit happens. But I think we are witnessing a huge disruption globally, economically, socially, in terms of our existence, politically. It's all upside down, and we don't know what's coming. Yeah.
I wonder if it just kind of exacerbated the fault lines that are already there. I wouldn't argue things got restructured as more of as like whatever kind of decay was already going to happen, because maybe just people were going to be more passive about how things were already going, just kind of got accelerated. So it was like, yeah. So yeah, the awareness thing is dead on, because like that's just, and we had to just take in each other's viewpoint because we were all online and stuff. But like,
I'm thinking about, maybe 200 years ago when our agrarian culture saw the invention of steam and this idea of machines coming in. Oh my God, machines! This tractor is going to replace my men, and the train is going to come in, and now we're going to have to go. And so these disruptions happen as a part of our human sort of spans. So we can, the sky is falling, Chicken Little. The sky will fall. But it doesn't mean that we're going to see something. Who knows what we're going to see? I mean, if I think about just, okay, look, I get very angry when people talk about the plague of our time, this COVID. And I thought to myself, COVID got science to respond with a vaccine within months. If I go back to the 80s and the 90s, and there's the plague of AIDS, I saw all of my community devastated. And there was no response from science with a vaccine or a cure. Only now, some 40 years on, do we have it. So don't tell me COVID is the end. It's our great plague. Sorry, that's bullshit.
Yep.
Because the way society responded to that was so different. And there will be more plagues. COVID is just the beginning. And it also, it also has instilled a kind of social fear. We're afraid of being around certain places of the world. We now circumspect, China, India, Portugal. And so we don't know, because going back to our social construct, when we don't identify a table as a table, then what is it? We have to find out what is it now. So if our dollar isn't really a dollar, then how do I look at this Bitcoin and see its equivalency? So we're in a kind of redefinition of this sort of construct. And I'm hoping that it will become more global and less local. There's the US, I'm powerful. There's Russia, I'm powerful. China, no, I'm powerful. We're all powerful. And this kind of, let's draw the line so that this is my rice paddy and that's your rice paddy and we don't meet. There's some fallout that's going to come from that.
So how do you think technology is allowing that process to happen? And according to your view, these disruptions are just either inevitable or they've always been happening. And it seems like a big deal because we're in it right now. But it was a big deal when the changes happened to the people before us too. And it will be a big deal when the changes happen to the next people in line. But there's always change.
Eve just changed.
Yeah, right. It was just like, she's also frozen too. Just like, Eve, can you hear us? Oh, maybe not.
I guess she's having more glitches in this matrix.
Yeah, I kind of wish I did that earlier. That was kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty great.
So yeah, how do you think technology will aid in that transition away towards, I guess, these larger powers towards a more global society?
Well, I mean, a lot of news today is about Bitcoin. A lot of news today is about NFTs. These ideas that we can own things virtually. Welcome back, Eve.
Thank you.
You are a little sidelined for a little bit.
Yes, thank you. Sorry about that.
It's okay. I want to ask some questions for Eve now because I feel like she had some technical difficulties happening and maybe missed out on some of the conversation.
Yeah.
But can I hear more of your perspectives? There's that. More your perspectives on how technology is changing the entire world. Maybe not just us as individuals. What do you think is the future for us? How do you think we're becoming a more global society?
Well, I definitely think it's connecting us in ways. For example, I'm connected to so many communities and artists that are in places I would never have had the connection to whatsoever. And it's just based on our mutual interests. And I'm making all these connections and finding all these opportunities. But I guess that's just for me as an artist. What that means for us in the world, I don't know, but I hope we can figure out a way to share our resources and stop killing people for things. I don't know, all of the awful things that go on. I just wish that it can unite, it could pave that way to unite us and that everything, can be shared. But, there's an ugly part of human nature that is very, prevalent and always has been. So I don't know if that's going to change, but I think the connection part and, I guess people finding like-minded people for the same purposes, I think that's really beneficial and might really take us all to another level that we haven't imagined before. Weren't able to.
Sort of like what we're doing right now in a way.
Exactly.
How much of you also mentioned trying to retain your humanity along the way. How much do you think we'll still be able to do that?
Great question. Are we losing our humanity as a result of this technological interaction?
Not even as the result of we're talking to too many people. What the fuck is it? More of a because we would just be more obviously because I'd love for us to connect more online and go globally and stuff. But I guess actually no, there's no real bad answer to that question. I do wonder if would it be more terminally online in ways that we wouldn't feel any pressure to confine ourselves to certain avatars or states of beauty or perfection that we we'd kind of hope for. I'm at with that. How do I put this? Yeah, would we focus a little more on our avatars as representations of ourselves rather than just as much of ourselves that we can retain? What do you think the balance would be there?
I don't know, but I think, you asked about our humanness. I mean, even though I feel like I'm connecting with you, I also feel like we're all sitting in a room right now in front of a screen, which is weird to think about, right? I'm not feeling very human. I'm not connecting with the human in front of me. So it's a bit bizarre. One day I spent a whole afternoon texting people. And I realized at one point I was I'm just sitting here alone in my room laughing to myself, because of this stuff that's coming on the screen. And I'm I don't know how that doesn't seem very okay, but
It's the thought that counts. I do genuinely think about doing VR chat every now and then, just because it does look pretty cool. That's some nice stuff in it, but trying to get the headset to do it. But yeah, man, I'm not sure yet.
Do you think that our interactions are going to be more and more through this lens of virtual reality? Are we going to live in a future where we never show our actual faces and all we know about each other are our avatars or virtual profiles?
Well, I heard that Meta, whatever, is trying to take people into this virtual reality world. And my friend has those VR goggles that you just mentioned, Eugene. And I tried it once and I was playing table tennis with some avatar from like Korea or something, and it was nighttime where I was, but in the table tennis game it was like daytime, and like there's this like being, and I'm just playing table tennis, and it was really strange. So I think yeah, that has a whole other possibility for, I don't know, but yeah, it was bizarre.
How did you feel exiting that experience?
Oh,
I definitely felt altered afterwards. I felt like I was literally in another place and dimension. And then when I, took the goggles off and came back into the dark room of the nighttime here in New York City where I was like, I definitely felt strange.
okay.
I've only entered virtual reality once or twice, but both times there's this sense of, I don't even know how to describe it, but when you take that headset off and you re-enter the real world, there's almost this sense of loss.
Yeah.
Like it's like a rude awakening. You're entering you're becoming sober after riding this virtual high. It's very strange.
Did you feel it like change your brain? I felt like it, I don't know, did something to my brain chemistry almost, because it
literally feels like waking from a dream.
Yes, I agree. It's definitely curious.
How do you think that will, if people live in those virtual spaces, what impact is that going to have? And those spaces are so inherently malleable because we can, as much as we can make whatever we want happen in the real world, you can literally make anything that you want in those virtual spaces. Will that make reality seem like lesser as a result?
I wonder if that's an instant gratification thing. Oh no, Paul's going. No, Paul go. It's fine.
I'm wondering, as a person, how difficult it would be to live with two sets of rules. The rules as applies to what's in virtual reality, and the rules that apply to when I walk out the front of my door and I'm with other sentient beings. I think one of the things I think I've been experiencing is intense loneliness. I live a very connected life, but when I also go outside my front door, there are people whose language I don't speak, and that loneliness, that isolation is resonant. And I think if we have to live by two sets of rules, that it makes it really difficult.
Don't you think we live by two sets of rules already? Just having these online identities versus being walking human beings in the real world?
I imagine the second set depends on like how you define what your own presence is on the internet, right? Because like, for example, like how you would kind of police yourself in chat rooms and what places you go into, it's not as much of the, there still wouldn't be the sensation if you walking from one space into another as much, I imagine. Still the idealized version of your online persona that you may already have. So like, for example, like I genuinely thought about being anonymous as far as like all my art for a very long time because I just thought it'd be cool. And, oh yeah, I could charge more, I guess. It doesn't matter. It was really charged. I think it was a good idea at the end of the day. But so like, there's like the bit that you can control online, but it's it's more to do with like rules that you set for yourself. And I imagine those would be pretty biased towards how you think of yourself as a person. Just kind of an extension of what you like yourself, I guess.
But Eugene, you have to learn these rules from someplace.
Oh, of course, that too.
We're not inherently born with rules. So the kinds of rules that get instilled in our moral system have to come from somewhere. And I actually believe they come from a very specific time in one's development as a being.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually think music has a lot to do with teaching moral values. I think the music that you listen to when you're a teenager, sort of between 12 and 18, is actually teaching you how to navigate the rest of your life. And I really believe it, but I can't yet quite prove it, but I see it everywhere. I think it's the way we treat women. I think it's the way we treat ethnicities. I think the language of our music teaches us a certain kind of moral value system. This interests me.
Yeah. Ah, man. Yeah, just kind
I
of
agree.
pass it down. Just pass the good stuff down to other people, I guess.
Well, let's unpack that more. It sounds like you haven't completely developed your thesis yet, but
I haven't. But I think about it a lot. I have a PhD in music. I've spent my life as a composer. I've spent my life as an educator. I have spent my life sort of watching the American popular landscape, and to see the music of the 60s, let's just say even up to the year 2000. I've actually designed a course called From Woodstock to the iPod.
ooh,
And
that's
and
interesting.
it's not about the greatest hits of the Eagles or whatever. It's about how did we go from a concert where there was 500,000 people to a situation where we're all plugged in on an iPod. That is a significant social change. And it happened without protest. It happened without protest.
I
And
protested.
and it really, huh?
I said I protested.
So you're a 90s woman.
Yes.
Yeah, see? Because it's just interesting to watch how the music shaped generations.
Well, I mean, what was Woodstock? It was emblematic of a mass cultural movement, right? It was masses of people coming together for a singular experience. And what is an iPod now? Or we don't even really use iPods anymore. But what are our devices now? They're allowing us to experience on an individual level highly curated, personalized experiences, which in a way separate us from those larger mass movements and experiences.
Yeah. They're soundtracks for our trajectory. They're soundtracks for our own timeline. And they don't intersect. And they don't intersect. When I teach a group of 30 students, we cannot find one song that we all know.
Wow.
It's impossible. 30 people cannot find one song that we all know. And that is a social phenomenon that is completely unique to the 21st century.
That is a great point.
Incredible,
I
actually.
often, yeah.
Because and part of this has to do with technology. Part of it has to do that it's technology has enabled everybody to become artistically expressive. I can make film, I can make audio, I can make drawings. Technology will make me look like I'm a kick-ass professional, even though all I have is this little idea, a little puppet, wants to do this. And so, look at memes. Memes are completely transformative of our landscape, and they're criticisms. They're really kind of they're sort of like political cartoons of the 21st century. So there's this sort of renegotiation of the landscape. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but clearly I'm fired up about something.
I have a question
No,
that it interests me a lot, and sorry to talk over anyone else in this conversation, but that's something that I've also thought myself. In this age of highly curated, personalized content, of which there's so many, more music, more media, more movies, TV shows, games than ever before. And it's only accelerating because everyone has the ability to create these things now and the ability to share them to a global audience. Are we actually losing our connections to each other by allowing ourselves to go down these highly niche silos that no one else has experienced? If we relate to each other through our media, and we're all experiencing media that we can't relate to each other through, what impact is that having on our relationships with each other?
I wonder if it's more of the thing of like how niche the thing already was. Okay, for example, like yeah, we all have our own highly curated ideas of like who we are and the things we watch and things we look at. But a lot of that, I mean, it's on the curation point, it's how much are you doing that actively as opposed to stuff that's suggested to you. Because if you have an actual interest in seeking this stuff out, that means there is definitely a community of people who are already into what you were doing. It's just niching down. So you'd be happy to find those people. And I think it's just like more people are finding groups of stuff they already liked type thing, rather than we all have to be assimilated into the massive group because the category is too big and there's not much space for anyone else type thing. But, yeah, that's just my point. Although I do want to go back to what Paul, you were saying, how Woodstock to the iPod. I think the interesting thing was, because I know like musicians are making the most money when you just had to reproduce the sheet music itself and sell to someone else to play it. So the thing was always convenience of being able to get the audio versus the convenience of making just over time, and that's what people kind of chose. Between like the streaming and the iPod years was the thing of, as consumers, it was better to get it for free or pay the subscription fee once a month, as opposed to, well, I'm just going to pay for the individual things, and labels lost out, and then they get always recoup and fuck the artist over. But that was just an interesting thing. But yeah, dogging your question, I think it's just more niche groups that just kind of develop because just kind of carving spaces out for themselves, as opposed to, oh, we're losing space for each other kind of thing.
You know, Eve, that is fantastic.
Who's that coming from?
I'm sorry.
There's a whole symphony outside.
New York City window.
Speaking of music.
Go ahead, Paul. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, Eve, I was thinking about what you said about, as an artist, you have all these little sort of micro communities that you're connecting with, and you're able to kind of talk about art, and you're finding these sort of niches for us to be in. And I think this is one human value that transcends time, and that is, we need self-validation. We as a human need to feel like I'm okay. You know, I communicate this way. Oh, hey, this person communicates this way, or this person understands my communication this way. And these sort of micro communities are really very important.
I agree.
And sometimes these micro communities aren't available in our real life. Mm-hmm. You know, as I have moved from the US to Estonia, what's available to me socially is completely different. And so my isolation comes from being in a culture that isn't what I'm familiar with. And so it's more than just not being able to communicate with them. It's my sort of social construct is completely different. Mm-hmm. This is a country that until 30 years ago was under Soviet control and surveillance, and that's very much alive. So music and art and technology, I mean, this idea of us, we make it to communicate, to find others. You know, I remember this meme once that was like an artist going through the different day, and all the artist wants to hear at the end of the day is, I love you. I love you. I love you, Paul. I know that your work is kind of weird. I know that your sounds are kind of kooky. I know that your film is kind of like WTF. I'm having a moment, and I'll tell you what the moment is. Yesterday was the 30th anniversary of the death of John Cage. John Cage was somebody who was extremely important to me. I knew him quite well in the last 20 years of his life. And he lived in New York City and kept his windows open. And this kind of disturbance was just music for him. It was part of everyday life. He would continue talking even though these trucks would pass by. And it's just...
Wow, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize it was so intrusive.
I'm getting goosebumps in realizing that we can't control sound. We can't control we can't control our senses. Mm-hmm. And that's something virtual reality won't ever be able to take away from us. I hope. I think maybe they could sort of control our sense of smell in what we see. Yeah, but it's temporary, right? We at some point take off the goggles.
Right.
I almost wonder whether that's a good place to stop. How do we feel about this conversation?
Why would they make? Would they make? Would you? Okay. And Matt, do you think any company would try and do like an angel investor round for "we'll simulate this smell for your nose"? Because that just feels pointless. But someone's going to try it, right?
I was thinking scratch and sniffs.
Yeah.
Television?
Okay.
Oh, like, scratch this at 30 minutes into the TV show.
Yeah. There's actually a movie done by John Waters. I think it's called Polyester, and it actually was the first scratch and sniff movie that when a scene came up, a number came up on the screen. You had to scratch.
Yeah.
So one was the smell of roses, another one was the gas from the oven, another one was a fart.
Who did it already?
It was called Sensorama. It was called
Where'd that go?
Sensorama. Huh?
Where did that go?
Yeah.
What it didn't revolutionize the media industry?
I feel like there were 40 cinemas.
It's the snowflake generation. Oh, it's too strong for me.
I love it.
So,
I'll do it again.
Doug, this is one of those kinds of things where we don't know. We have to end with a question mark, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's anyone who tells you what the future is doesn't and I don't know how the rest of that line goes.
I'm sure it's a good line. I'm sure it is.
But if you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him.
Nice.
So
Well, that's too certain. Yeah, it's good.
Well, I
thank
think
you for having us.
Yes,
Yeah.
thanks for coming on again. I know that things were a little less scripted than last time, and everyone had to think on their feet more. And this was just a big experiment. But it was really great hearing your perspectives and opening up the floor for you to talk to each other to see what would happen.
Thank you. It's been
It was
fun.
really great, actually. Thanks so much, Doug.
Yeah. Thank you all for inputting. You've given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
So
Good talk.
namaste. Yeah.
So before everyone leaves, starting with now Eve, Eugene, and Paul, can you let everyone know again who you are, where you're from, and where people can find you?
Sure. My name is Eve Kat. Oh, Paul, you were going to say? Oh, okay. My name is Eve Kat, short for Eve Katharsis. I'm on Instagram as Elixir Healing Art or Eve Katharsis if you wanted to find me. And I am a healing artist. And yeah, was that it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
My name is Eugene. I am based in London. I do analog glitch. Occasionally, I do film. I turn London into Blade Runner at night for photography. And you can find me at ET Visuals on Instagram. That's ETVISUALS. Oh my god, I spelled it right. Okay, awesome. Thanks.
All right. Paul?
Having come out of this conversation, I'll say that my name is Paul Beaudoin, and there's a version of me at Instagram with my name, Paul Beaudoin. He may or not really be this, but I just want you to love me.
Nice.
I think everyone here does, Paul.
Yeah, that's great.
So,
All right, so that was Eve, that was Eugene, that was Paul. My name is Doug Rizzio, and just to ask this question again, are we living in the Matrix? Is the universe just one big simulation? Is everything we thought what if everything we thought we knew was nothing more than virtual reality? Ponder the answers to these questions and more sometime in the distant future on Glitchin' in the Matrix. Bye.